Before we even start, I want to know where you're listening from. Drop your country in the comments. Maybe you're driving home from a job that drains every bit of your energy, or lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering if you'll ever break through. Maybe it's 6 a.m., and you're in your kitchen, staring at a cup of coffee, trying to find the strength to face another day that already feels too heavy. This story is for you. I'm going to tell you about the last time I cried. Not the kind of tears you shed at a sad movie, but the kind that come from somewhere so deep inside you didn't even know that place existed. The kind that tears you apart and somehow rebuilds you stronger. The kind most successful people will never admit to because they think it makes them look weak. They're wrong. For years, I believed that strength meant never breaking, that being a CEO, an entrepreneur, the one with all the answers, meant I couldn't show cracks. I thought I had to be the rock, the foundation, the one who held it all together. I believed that lie for years, and it almost destroyed me. The truth is, building something that matters will break you over and over again. And if you think success is about avoiding those breaks, you'll either quit too soon or lose yourself completely. Today, I want to tell you about 3 times I broke completely, 3 times I cried until there was nothing left, and how each of those moments didn't just make me stronger, they made me more human, more connected to my purpose, and ultimately, more effective at everything I was trying to build. But before that, let me ask you, when was the last time you actually let yourself feel what you're going through? Not manage it, not push through it, not distract yourself from it, but truly feel it. Because that's where my story really begins. The first time I truly understood betrayal was in September 2000. I was the CEO of X.com, which was merging with PayPal. I thought we were united, building the future of financial services together. I believed the people at that table were my allies, my partners in changing how the world moved money. I was wrong. I had flown to Australia for what was meant to be a quick business trip and a belated honeymoon with Justine. X.com was growing fast, processing millions in transactions, and the merger with PayPal was supposed to create something unprecedented, a complete digital financial system. But while I was gone, the board met without me. Peter Thiel, Max Levchin, the other PayPal founders, and even some people from my own team orchestrated a coup. When I landed back in San Francisco, I got a call. That shattered me. I was no longer CEO. They had voted me out while I was on the other side of the planet. The official reason was strategic differences, but the real reason was that they thought I was moving too fast, taking too many risks, chasing a vision they weren't willing to follow. They wanted to play it safe. I remember sitting in my car outside the Palo Alto office, staring at the building that held everything I had worked for since coming to America, my engineers, my code, my dream of transforming financial services, and knowing I couldn't even walk through the front door. The dreams of hundreds of brilliant engineers felt shattered, scattered across the Pacific Ocean in tiny, broken pieces. The financial reality was brutal. I had just enough personal money for maybe one more launch attempt, and if that failed, SpaceX would be finished. Without SpaceX contracts to provide credibility, Tesla would collapse too. But the numbers weren't the worst part. The real weight came from doubt. I thought about all those incredible people who had trusted me enough to leave stable, high-paying jobs at Boeing, Lockheed, and NASA to chase an impossible dream, making life multiplanetary. They worked 80-hour weeks for below-market salaries because they believed in the mission, and I couldn't stop asking myself if I was letting them down, if I was proving every critic right. Maybe I was just the guy who got lucky once with PayPal and had deluded myself into thinking I could revolutionize transportation and space travel. The media certainly seemed to think so, with daily headlines declaring that I was burning through money and over my head and should stick to software instead of trying to build real things in the physical world. My personal life was unraveling. Under the strain, my marriage was cracking, my health was deteriorating, and my mind was clouded. I was losing weight, losing sleep, and, worst of all, losing faith in my own judgment. That's when the most crushing thought of all hit me. What if they were right? More than anything, I learned that sometimes you have to lose everything to truly discover what you're made of. I learned that crying isn't the opposite of strength. It's the reset button that unlocks a deeper strength you didn't even know you had. The most recent time I broke down was harder to explain because it wasn't about betrayal or failure. It was about overwhelming success, mixed with the crushing weight of what comes next. In December 2020, Crew Dragon had just carried astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to the International Space Station, two NASA veterans who had trusted their lives to a spacecraft built by a private company that hadn't even existed 2 decades earlier. For the first time since the shuttle program ended in 2011, Americans were launching to space from American soil on an American rocket. We had restored the nation's ability to send humans into space, ending nearly a decade of reliance on Russian Soyuz rockets. I was in mission control, watching the live stream, surrounded by hundreds of SpaceX engineers who had worked 80-hour weeks for years to make this moment possible. Many of them had never witnessed a successful human spaceflight launch in their entire careers. With an average age of just 30, most had grown up after the shuttle program had already begun winding down. They didn't choose aerospace for money or glamour. They chose it because they believed humanity needed to become a spacefaring civilization. And when Bob and Doug finally docked with the ISS, the room erupted. People hugging, crying, overcome by the realization that they had just been part of something that would live in history forever. The things that seem impossible are usually just problems no one has figured out how to solve yet. If you strip them down to first principles, and if you're willing to endure a lot of failures along the way, you find that most impossible things are simply really hard. Each time I cried, I wasn't just letting go of emotion. I was clearing space for the next version of myself to emerge. Most people run from emotional pain. They numb it with alcohol, bury it under endless entertainment, or medicate it away with antidepressants. They treat crying as if it's a malfunction, when in reality, it's a feature. Pain is information. Crying is your nervous system's way of processing an overload of data and preparing you for the next phase of growth. It's not a signal that something is broken. It's proof that something is transforming. When you resist crying, when you try to bulldoze through emotional overwhelm without processing it, you don't become stronger, you become harder. And there's a difference. Strength is alive. It bends without breaking. It adapts, evolves, and reshapes itself to meet whatever comes next. Maintaining core principles is what real strength is built on. Hardness, on the other hand, is brittle. It looks tough until it hits something it can't handle, and then it shatters. I've seen countless entrepreneurs choose hardness over strength. They bottle up their emotions, neglect their relationships, and run themselves into the ground trying to prove they can handle anything. Some make it for a while, but most either burn out completely or turn into people they no longer recognize. The ones who endure, the ones who build things that matter for decades, not just years, are different. They've learned that true strength isn't about never bending. It's about knowing when to release the pressure. They understand that crying isn't the opposite of toughness. It's the maintenance that keeps toughness sustainable. And the science backs this up. Most people don't realize that when you cry, your body releases endorphins, prolactin, and enkephalins, natural chemicals that help you process stress and trauma. Dr. William Fry, who has studied crying for decades, found that emotional tears actually contain stress hormones and toxins your body is literally flushing out. Crying isn't weakness. It's your nervous system's way of detoxifying and resetting itself after overload. This isn't new age philosophy. It's neuroscience. Skip that reset, and you're forcing your brain to operate on corrupted data. I've learned this the hard way. The times I tried to push through without processing what I was feeling, times I tried to be purely rational in deeply emotional situations, I made terrible decisions. I burned out teams, damaged relationships, and wasted years chasing strategies that felt logical but were actually driven by fear and unprocessed pain. But when I let myself feel everything, when I cried until there was nothing left, I came back sharper. My mind cleared. Problems I'd been blind to became obvious. My decisions were rooted in reality instead of fear. That's why emotional intelligence isn't separate from business intelligence or technical skill. It's the foundation that makes both sustainable. Intelligence, whether emotional, business, or technical, is all part of the same system. If you're not processing your emotions effectively, you're not thinking effectively. Period. And here's the hidden cost of emotional suppression that no one teaches you in business school. Pushing emotions down doesn't make them disappear, it just drives them underground, where they quietly influence your decisions without you even realizing it. When I was trying to play the role of the perfectly rational CEO, the one who never let emotions touch business decisions, I actually made more emotional decisions, not fewer. I just wasn't aware of them. I would hire people because they reminded me of someone I admired, not because they were the right fit for the role. I would avoid difficult conversations because they made me uncomfortable, not because they weren't necessary. I would chase strategies that felt safe instead of pursuing the ones that were truly right. The irony is that in trying to keep emotions out of business, I was letting unconscious emotions run the business. Everything changed when I started acknowledging what I was feeling, processing it fully, and then making decisions from a clear, grounded state. My judgment improved dramatically. I could see people more clearly, assess risks more accurately, and make choices based on first principles instead of hidden biases. And this applies to teams as much as it does to leaders. The healthiest company cultures aren't the ones where no one ever gets emotional. They're the ones where people can express emotions appropriately, work through them together, and then align around a shared mission. At SpaceX and Tesla, we've learned that even the most technical problems often have emotional roots. When an engineer is too afraid to admit they're stuck, or when a team's pride keeps them from asking for help, the obstacle isn't just technical, it's human. When leaders become too ego-invested in a specific approach, those emotional dynamics can lead directly to technical failures. But when people feel safe enough to be honest about what they're feeling, when they can express frustration, fear, or uncertainty without judgment, problems get solved faster, and the solutions are almost always better. And this changes everything. If you're going through something that feels like it's breaking you, hear me clearly. You are not broken, you are breaking open. The question isn't whether you'll face overwhelming challenges. You absolutely will. The real question is whether you'll let them shut you down or open you up. Here's the truth about crying, about real, unfiltered emotional release. It's not the end of your strength, it's the beginning of your authenticity. The moment you stop pretending you're unaffected, stop performing vulnerability for appearance's sake, and actually allow yourself to feel what's real, that's when you stop reacting to fear and start responding to reality. I'm not telling you to cry more. I'm telling you that when life drops you to your knees, don't be ashamed, be present. Let it move through you completely. Then ask, what is this teaching me? What space is this clearing for the next version of me? Your tears don't mean you're too weak for your dreams. They mean your dreams matter enough to fight for. But here's the catch. You have to let the crying do its work. You can't rush it, skip it, or hand it off to someone else. You have to sit with the pain until it turns into wisdom. Most people try to handle emotional struggles like technical problems. They analyze them, search for root causes, and implement fixes. But emotions don't work like machines. They work like weather systems. You can't control them, but you can learn to move with them instead of against them. And practically, that starts with one question. When you feel overwhelmed, instead of immediately trying to fix or escape it, ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? When you feel the urge to cry, don't fight it. Sit with it for at least 10 minutes before doing anything. Let the tears come without judgment, without analysis, without trying to make them useful. Your nervous system knows exactly what it's doing. If you're facing a big decision while emotions are high, feel those emotions completely first, then decide. Emotions aren't the enemy of logic. It's the unprocessed ones that sabotage us. And when someone you care about is crying, resist the instinct to fix them or cheer them up. Just be there. Sometimes the greatest gift is simply to witness someone's pain without trying to change it. When you're building something important, that resistance you feel isn't proof you're failing. It's proof you're doing something that matters enough to scare you. That's why in my companies, I've made space for emotional processing, not in rushed meetings, but in honest one-on-one conversations, in team debriefs after failures where we address the emotional weight before the technical details. Because the best innovators, leaders, and problem solvers aren't emotionless machines. They're humans who know how to work with their full emotional range instead of against it. True resilience isn't about never breaking down, it's about breaking down well, processing emotions without self-destruction, and using the clarity that follows as an advantage. This takes practice, like building muscle. Every morning, before I check my phone, I check in with myself. How am I feeling? What's carrying over from yesterday? What's weighing on me today? Throughout the day, I take 5-minute reset, breaks of stillness, letting emotions pass through so I can move forward with a clear mind. At night, I do emotional debriefs, asking what was hardest, what I'm proud of, and what I need to release before tomorrow. Once a month, I take longer, half a day alone, to feel deeply, to see the bigger patterns, to find the insights hiding in discomfort. These aren't luxuries. They're survival strategies for anyone playing the long game. The truth is, every tear I've shed in the past 20 years has been an investment in clarity. Tesla exists because I processed the betrayal of the PayPal coup and built something where I kept enough control to see the vision through. SpaceX exists because I cried over failure and chose humanity's future over my ego. Our success in human spaceflight exists because I cried under the weight of responsibility and decided to share it with the most capable people I could find. Breakdowns can be breakthroughs if you let them break you open instead of closed. The strongest people I know aren't those who never fall apart. They're the ones who do, fully, and then rise again sharper, wiser, and more focused. They know emotions aren't obstacles, they're data. They've learned that crying isn't weakness, it's strength in its purest form. So I'll leave you with this. What possibility is your pain making room for? Your tears are not your defeat. They're your most authentic proof of strength.